Cards and Comic Show. Hey, welcome back to Cards and Comics, episode 4 of my new Cards and Comics show. All right, so I'm a little late this week due to Halloween. However, I got a really cool show for you guys. I'm doing the intro right now. I got a viewer mail, so I actually have a question. So me and Bob have gone through all the comments that we've seen on videos, and I actually have a good question today. I'm going to move on to some breaking hobby news. I'm moving my mail day up in front of my collection spotlight for a reason. And then I'll end on my top 5 comic book picks of the week and a sneak peek into next week. All right, so on to viewer mail. So Greg F. Sent a question in, and he asked, does PSA care if you put penny sleeves on cards when you submit? Now, I did a video where I sleeved up some cards I busted out of SGC holders, and you can see them here. Check out that video if you want to see how I take cards out of SGC holders. But, I didn't put any of those into penny sleeves, and I'm sure some OCD collectors probably lost their mind, or will when they see the video in the future. For the most part, I do not put penny sleeves on vintage cards. However, for chrome-based cards, Prism, Finest, Topps Chrome, I do put penny sleeves on because those surfaces are so easy to damage. But for these kind of cards I just showed you with the paper surfaces, I don't. Now, PSA used to have this giant, guide, and maybe they still do, on how to submit cards. And they used to say not to put penny sleeves on because it took extra handling. And in some cases, might damage the card by handling the card more often by taking off the penny sleeve. I found that, yes, I have damaged paper-based cards putting this sleeve on by flipping the corner, getting the piece of plastic underneath the cardboard and flipping the paper over. I have done that a few times. And on some cards that are really vintage, that have damage to them already, you can make the damage worse by catching a corner, catching something that's damaged on the card and making it worse. So for vintage cards, I don't care. I don't put them on there. I don't think it does anything extra. Can actually damage the card. But for the chrome cards, it does offer some protection from scratching. So I've never had PSA reject an order with sleeves on them. And I've never had them call me or tell me not to do that anymore. So, I would say it's pretty safe to be able to put the penny sleeves on. So that's my take, and that's how I do it. And I haven't received negative feedback yet. So there you go. All right, moving on to hobby news. In breaking hobby news, it appears Topps has lost its license with WWE to Panini. In a Sportico article from October 27th, 2021, it states that WWE is ditching Topps for Panini in a short-term deal starting in Q1 2022. It appears to be a short-term deal that's going to allow WWE to shop itself around in the near future, and maybe Fanatics will pick it up as it's picked up most major sports. In breaking hobby news, PSA's Nat Turner on the Card Talk YouTube channel announces that they want prices to go back to pre-COVID levels.
Entry price point.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see that going?
Our goal is to get it back to where it was. I think there's a lot of cards that don't make sense to grade if it's, unless it's $10.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we want to get back to. Are we going to get back there this year? Probably not. Are we going to get back there in Q1? Doubtful. And the only reason is that we cannot make the same mistake we made this year, which is have demand be 2 or 3 times that of our capacity. Because what happens when you do that is the backlog starts to pile up and turnaround times start to suffer. Mm-hmm. So our plan, instead of limiting how many cards you can send in, it's going to be to limit demand based on price. It'll be a mixture of the two. So to give you a sense, we are thinking, hey, if you have a set that you're trying to build and you're missing 100 cards, yes, feel free to submit those 100 cards at a discounted rate. That is actually something we're working on. It's hard to do that with technology. You have to connect the submission center to the set registry to know, and connect, make sure those are the same cards. But, that's an example. We are working on a technology that allows kind of like, not so much a raffle, but a rate limiting system where we can say, hey, in the month of December, we're going to allow, just making this up, 50,000 cards to come in at $20, where the list price may be, just making this up, 100.
In breaking comic book hobby news, it appears we have a crisis of infinite paper shortages. As you can see, this comic book industry printing crisis has no end in sight and is causing many delays on many popular books. When it will be over, stay tuned to find out. That's it for breaking hobby news, and we're going to move on to my mail day for the week. All right, guys, we are back to my mail day for the week, and it's pretty big. I didn't have a very big one yesterday, so here we go. We'll start with some comic books, and we'll go from there. So, all right, first book up is Philadelphia, issue number 1 from Image Comics, and this is a series that's getting a lot of pub. Obviously, they think it's going to be optioned at some point. Maybe it already has. I haven't really been keeping up with all the hobby news. But it's gotten some heat. I really want to read the story. And for the most part, what I usually do is read stories as trade paperbacks. But here's issue 1 and a series that's gaining some steam. And I'm very looking forward to reading it. But yeah, wanted it in the collection. Number 2 is a book I've had a few times on here, and it is the Iron Man number 12, Miles 10-year anniversary issue, and it's the Raza cover. I really like this cover. I've been getting multiple copies for my collection to get graded, but also what I'm doing is I'm getting ready for a big comic book show coming up in Saratoga Springs, and I am going to set up as a dealer. And I think this book will be very popular, and it's pretty cheap right now. I've seen some copies bringing close to $10, and I think this book is at $10 is really undervalued. I think this is going to be one of those cool books that maybe isn't thousands of dollars, but could eventually be a couple hundred in a CGC 9.8. So anyway, it's a low spec for me. It's a cool looking book, and I think it'll sell well at a comic book show. All right, next up is, as you may know, there's a lot of Gunslinger books coming out this week. I believe there's 9 total with a autographed copy coming out as well from Todd McFarlane. So I went ahead and bought the base set, which is kind of the covers A through G. Cover H is a 1 in 50 black and white Capullo cover, and then you got the Todd McFarlane autograph version of his book. So we'll start here with cover A, and there you go. That is the Brett Booth cover. Very nice. The one thing I don't like about it, just critiquing, because I can, is I don't like the face because you can't see the mask. It's weird to not see the mask, but in its full color, so it's just weird it's shaded like that. But there you go, cover A. Brett Booth. Cover B is the McFarlane book, and it's the one I like the most just because I think it's, it's cool to have another number 1 Spawn McFarlane cover. So there you go. Cover B, McFarlane. Next up is cover C, and this is Jason Sean Alexander. So there you go. The horse, and that's a really cool cover as well. I like the fact that they didn't just kind of riff on the same motif here. You've got, the glowing eyes horse. I think that's really cool. So cover C, as I make some space here. Here you go. 1D Greg Capullo. So this is the one that has the black and white version that you can get, the 1 in 50. So this is the full color version. Nice one as well. And here is cover E, and this is one I'm sure a lot of folks have heard or seen. It's the Robert Kirkman version. I like the movement and kind of the angle of this cover. I think there's some perspective issue there with the leg coming at you. Like the calf is as big as the thigh. I don't know. It just doesn't look quite right to me, but hey, I'm not an artist, so that's how I take it. So it's not my favorite one, but it's got a lot of interesting perspective. Next up is cover F. This is Tauntaun Revolver, I believe. That's what I read it was. I don't know much about the artist, but I like, it's kind of whimsical. I like the fact that he's smoking on a big old pile of TNT with some bad guys tied up. And it's really cool. So I like it. It's a little playful. And final cover is cover G, and I believe this is another Brett Booth cover. So, and there you go, cover G. So I got these all in one bundle for about $30. So not too bad. 7 covers for $30. So, you can definitely get some deals on these. These are obviously going to be heavily printed, maybe not every cover, but, the really popular ones are. So, but I just thought it was cool to get the full set versus trying to piecemeal them all different times. All right, next up is some books I got at the LCS, which is the Monster Stash in Wilton, New York. If you love comics and horror, come into the Monster Stash. It's an awesome place. My favorite LCS I've had in a while. So here is the Miracle Molly number 1. This is cover 1A. And this is from Little Thunder, which is a Hong Kong artist that I really like the work here. It reminds me of a more whimsical cross of like Art Germ with like Peach Momoko. So I like it. I like the use of colors. It's very interesting how artists start using these pastel colors, and all of a sudden you see 4 or 5 artists. You got Rose Bash, you've got Peach Momoko, now you got Little Thunder, and I like them all, and they all have different styles. So, but it's just interesting that it's kind of this idea that kind of like how Todd McFarlane, when he started, there was all of a sudden these hyper realistic artists out there at the same time. All right, next up is a book from last week. It's Batman 89 number 2. It's the Gerard version variant. And it's just sitting in my LCS. I picked it up. I pick up variants just for fun. Not a huge fan of the cover, but just for fun. Next up, is a book I pick up just because I'm a huge Booster Gold and Blue Beetle fan. So, this is kind of a fun take on the series. Dan Jurgens, who is kind of like the, resident Blue Beetle and Booster Gold writer. And so here you go. I wish they wasn't a limited series. I wish it was a full-time series just to have more goodness, blue and gold. But they are my favorite 2 characters. So if you ever take a cards and comic quiz, my 2 favorite comic book characters are Blue Beetle and Booster Gold. Next up is a book from last week again. It is the Batman Catwoman issue 8 variant cover, and this is the Jim Lee variant. I'm assuming it's kind of the knockoff of the Spider-Man Upside Down Kiss that you see quite a bit, with a gender swap there with Catwoman doing it. It's cool. It's not my favorite cover. That's why I didn't make my top 5 last week, even though I saw it on a few other top 5 lists. It's just not, something it's just a little too, I don't know. I guess easy as a subject, but hey, it's a Christmassy theme book. It's kind of cool, but it's Jim Lee, so I went ahead and picked it up for cover price. Next up is a book that came out this week that I really like. It is the Batman Long Halloween cover 1B from Tim Sale. I really love the series, Long Halloween, when it first came out. It really, I think, really added to the Catwoman character. And a lot of the things talked about in that book have stuck. And so Catwoman, I think, became a much better character, for me anyway, after the series. So, and it really put the mafia, aspect of Gotham kind of into a different light. So I like the series. So there you go, Batman: The Long Halloween. This is the special, and it's the cover 1B Tim Sale, and I really, really dig it. Next up is a really interesting book. Now I've heard from a lot of people that this book has been damaged by the printer. And you can see this one has got a little wrinkle there. You can kind of see if I can hold it just right. Yeah, right there. Not good, but hey, I heard this is how almost all of them are. Maybe not. Let me know in the comments if you got one that's perfect. But this is the Hidden Gem 1 in 50 John Romita Senior cover. Obviously it's a throwback to a Spider-Man cover. I forget which one it was, but hopefully I can add it post editing. But yeah, I really dig the cover, and I just saw it, and I'm a Spider-Man fan, so anything that's kind of a crossover with him is cool. It's a good book. The Hidden Gem variants have kind of stagnated a little bit because they do them so often that they're not really that special anymore. Whereas people would really think they're kind of cool when they first came out, but now they've done it so often, they're not as special. But this is a cool book for me just because I'm a fan of both Moon Knight and Spider-Man. So there you go, 1 in 50 variant. Next up is Batman 92. I just like the cover because it's a cool punchline and art germ cover. This is, I think, the cardstock version, so it's not really rare. And so the book is selling for about $8 or $9 max. But the cover price is $5, so it's almost doubled on cover price already. So it's a cool book. We'll see how the character does, but I think it's one of the cooler cover versions of her so far. So I think it's definitely something to watch, and it's cheap buy-in right now. Next up is Thor 18. This is the Hall of Comics variant. So this is the Journey into Mystery 83. This covers by Daniel Warren Johnson. So I just like it. It's got a lot of movement to it. Yeah, I believe there's a Stegman Throg cover that came out as well that I didn't notice the first time around, which looks pretty cool as well. So this is my pick from last week as far as my favorite Throg cover. So yeah, I like it, and it's just very playful, and I like just the motion on this cover, and the fact it's a throwback. All right, next up is a pretty cheap book. These books are selling for right at cover price or below right now. It's the Ginny Frizon variant cover of Thor number 9, and so this is the Phoenix version of Thor, Lady Thor, I guess you would say. I just think it's really cool. They do these kind of crossover characters all the time now, so it's not really a special, when they did it with Venom back in the day, and they keep doing it, and so it kind of dilutes it. But I like Ginny Frizon, and I really like the colors used here, and I just like it. And under cover price, you can't really go wrong, and just it's a cool book to hold on to. And you never know how things work out in the comic world. And my last book here is a book that I just kind of picked up because I'm in New York area, and I just thought this is cool from the New York Comic Con. This is the We Live number 1. It's the foil variant. Try not to get my face in the reflecting into it there. There you go. The We Live #1 foil variant from New York City Comic Con. It's not the metal, which I think is numbered out of 100. So there you go. But yeah, I really, really, really like that foil cover. And I'm not a huge foil cover fan, but for this book with a futuristic look to it, it kind of works. So there we go. We Live #1. So that's the comic book portion of the mail day. And I will go down here and we'll start the card side. So the cards are really cool as well. I was kind of alluding to last week that I was going to have a much bigger card mail day. And card section, we'll start here with a beautiful 99 SP signature Stan Musial, who, you know, is criminally underrated. I got to do a video on just how underrated his cards are. However, this is from one of my favorite autograph sets of all time. And the reason I really like the autograph set is because it was kind of a contrast to the Upper Deck Legends set, which was always kind of very classic looking cards. And this is a little more futuristic. And it was kind of like they both had similar players in both sets, but in both on card. But it was really different flavor. And to me, this was kind of like the more futuristic looking set versus kind of the classic set. And both of them are awesome. I collect them both. But I just like, you know, both sets kind of have a different style, and both of them are great. And so this is the Musial from it, and I'm really happy to pick it up. Next up is a player who I've been slowly picking up because I feel like his cards are just so underrated. And this is a 1999 SP Hollow View die cut, Barry Sanders, Mint 9. And I mean, it's just kind of crazy how low his prices are compared to somebody like I mean, he was at the time period, you know, late 80s, early 90s, you know, on the same level as like Michael Jordan or Griffey in terms of his sport. And, you know, his prices are high, but not crazy high and not close to what those two guys are. So I feel like he's underrated and undervalued. And so whenever I can, I pick up his inserts and the cool ones when I can. So this is a die cut. It's hollow view, so you can see that cool photo, you know, kind of looking at you from every angle. And it's very shiny, so cool card for me. So it's a low key set or player I've been picking up. I don't really want to start a new collection, but for him, I will definitely do something like that. Pick up his cards. And then here is a 74 Topps Cepeda. So moving into vintage. So this is just, you know, I pick up, you know, these 70s cards now. Like I used to pick up, let's say 60s Hall of Famers because they're available and they're still affordable. And I think this is a cool card. Don't have it yet that I believe. Next up is, again, 70s. It's the late 70s, obviously. But it's a 9, and I think picking up any Hall of Famer 9s from the 60s and 70s is a good value play. And for what I paid for this card, it's criminally underrated for that price to get a Hall of Famer, you know, from the 70s. So, you know, I took advantage of the fact that a lot of some of those players are not as popular today as you would think, even though they're Hall of Famers. And next up is a card that is really special because I love O-Pee-Chee cards, and so this is a 71 Pete Rose, and so I'm gonna let you look at it a little closer. And you can see this card is very, very nice. It has a little bit of the O-Pee-Chee rough cut, enough to make me think it's O-Pee-Chee, but not too much. And this card is crazy hard to get in a 7 or 8 from Topps. You see the top is a little off center. However, nothing is cut off. So if that little circle there was cut off, this card would get hammered from PSA. So this is going to be a card I will bust and sub to PSA as part of my next order with them. And so it's one of my most, I would say, like, anticipated cards because I've always loved this card, and I've never had this card in a PSA holder. And so if it comes back a straight 7, I'll be happy. Obviously, an 8's just amazing, but this is definitely one where if I just crossed over straight grade to grade, I would be very, very happy. Next up is 2 cards from the same the same player from the same year, but different company. So here is a PSA 7 Rod Carew. Here is a 7.5 SGC. And the one thing I want to show here is, in this case, this SGC card, is better centered than this card. But the color and focus, and so this is something that a lot of people don't pay too much attention to. But this is 2 cards you can really see the color and focus of the SGC card is so much better than this PSA card. Just look at the face and look at the background, and you can see how much more in focus and how much clarity there is in the SGC card than there is in the PSA card. If you flip on the back, there's always, the deeper the color is on the back, the more, most likely unhandled the cards were in a previous life. And so you can see the fading on that PSA card versus that really crisp pink color in the SGC card. So in the end, the SGC card has a lot going for it. It's centered. It has great color. It has great focus. And to me, it just blows away this PSA card. So we'll see when I crack this out and sub it if I actually get higher than this 7.5 or does it come back a straight 7, because this is where you'd say buy the card, not the holder. That SGC card is a better card. I will say that 100%. All right, my last card for today is going to be my segue into my next section, which is my collection spotlight, because I picked up a 60 Fleer Ted Williams 7. And this card is significant because it is his last playing card. I know it's not worth what a playing card should be worth, so a lot of people don't consider it a playing card, but it is. It's from when he actually played. If you read the back, it does say active, still active, bats left. And a lot of sources will say it's his last card. So it's a cool card, and so this is going to be the subject of my collector spotlight, and so we'll just move right into that and hope you enjoy, and hope you enjoy my mail day, and we'll move on to my collector spotlight. Thank you. My spotlight is the 60 Fleer Ted Williams set. So why is this card so special? Well, we look at the set itself, and the number one reason why this card is special is that it's the last card as an active player. So here's an article from Sports Collector Daily, which states exactly that. So in '59, Fleer signed Ted Williams from Topps and produced a whole set of cards of Ted Williams. Now, the thing that was interesting about that set is there isn't really one card you could say is his playing card or his statistical card. So that kind of made the set itself a little less valuable in terms of just that there wasn't a playing card, a card featuring, just like a normal, statistical card. Now, his 60 Fleer card, which is admittedly a terrible cropped photo, does have some stats on the back, even though it doesn't statistically talk about his 1959 season. Now, the set itself was mostly a greatest hits, or a great set, so it only showcased retired players. But the set itself, on the back of the card right here, you can see it says active player. So he was still playing when this card was issued. He has no other cards that were issued in his set, so this is considered his last playing card, which is pretty significant of a player such as Ted Williams, that his last playing card would have some value. And you can see it does have some major league statistics on the back, so it is similar to other playing cards. So now, just for reference here, you can see that he played in the 1959 and 1960 seasons, and he didn't just play a little bit, he played a lot. He had over 300 at-bats each of those 2 seasons and hit another 39 home runs and drove in another 115 runs. So that's not insignificant. That's not like a lot of players which have 20 or 30 games and 60, 80 at-bats that last season. Ted Williams is pretty active those last 2 years. And the thing that's even more interesting is his last year he had almost an 1100 OPS and a 316 batting average in 1960. It's also a shame that Fleer didn't include him in the 61 set, because obviously he could have had a 61 card, but didn't. Now, if you look at other Hall of Famers and their last cards, you can see that the 69 Mantle, which is Mickey's last card, significantly higher in price, and but you can see from the pop count, which is in parentheses, the 3 cards I have here, it's actually one of the higher pop counts in terms of PSA 7s. Now, the 76 Aaron, obviously the 76 that's much easier to get, and again, the values of the 76 Aaron compared to 60 Ted Williams are actually pretty similar, except for when you get to the PSA 9. Now, the 60 Ted Williams, the thing that's really interesting to me about it is that the pop counts are really low. This card has never been considered rare by a lot of dealers or individual collectors. However, if you look at it, it's actually a pretty low pop count for the time period. Anything below 200 is considered pretty rare in PSA 8. So it's not really rare, but it's one of the top tier Hall of Famers like Ted Williams. And you can see its PSA 8 is, in some cases, more than half the Aaron or the Mantle. Now, in PSA 9, it's actually pretty rare. 75 is a pretty low pop count. So again, it's got a lot of room to grow in my opinion. It's Ted Williams. It's his last playing card. This is a good value. Now, obviously, the look of the card really hurts it. I don't know why Fleer chose to crop the photo of Ted Williams so tight. It had basically almost half an inch on each side of the card to play with, because the photo itself is a good photo of Ted Williams. If this would have been a normal size photo on a card with 1959 stats on the back, I think this card would be close to $1,000 at least in a PSA 9, and probably $500 as a PSA 8, maybe more. So this card really is, to me, undervalued. So this is a fun card. Now, there's another player out there, Willie Mays, who has a really interesting last card. Now, you could say it's not a true last card, but it's going to be the subject of another video where I talk about Hall of Famers and their last cards. All right, so we'll move on to my top 5 comic book picks of the week. All right, here's my top 5 comic book cover picks of the week. Plus, I'm adding an early pick for the week of 11/1, and I really saw a book here I really like, and so I'm going to add it to my early picks for next week. All right, let's get started. So, obviously, Gunlsinger Spawn, number 1 has just come out, and there's multiple covers. In fact, there's 9 covers. And so, how do you pick the one you like? In fact, there's also a limited autograph version as well, but I chose the McFarlane cover because it's just awesome. And I feel like, with Spawn being so synonymous with Todd McFarlane now, even more, I think, than Spider-Man is, I really feel like this book is a really cool book to have another Spawn number 1 start of a very cool character design, and we'll see where it goes. Now, I mentioned that there is a numbered Todd McFarlane autograph version of this book, and it's been bringing about 600 to 650 recently. It shot out of the gate pretty high. I think it was over $1,000 for a little bit, but settling down in the $600 range. So I think it's a interesting book to pick up. Obviously, if you want the more rare and an autograph version, you definitely have this choice. Moving on to number 4, House of Slaughter number 1. This is the Ginny Frizen 1 in 100 variant cover. And right now, it's selling on eBay for around $40. There's also a 1 in 200 foil cover version of this book, and it's the same cover just in a foil version, and it's going over $100. So, in my opinion, I'd rather just have the normal cover for $40. If it takes off, get it graded. You don't have a lot of money into it, and the foil covers to me are more gimmicky, but I've gotten foil covers on my collection, so sometimes I don't take my own advice. Moving on to number 3, Batman: The Long Halloween Special number 1. It's the cover 1B from Tim Sale. And I really like this book because it's an expansion of the original story. So it's a revisiting of that original story that I really liked when I was younger, and I thought it was a good story, and it really I thought brought Batman back to some relevance, and it gave Catwoman some more relevance as well. Now, the cover I chose for this is not the let's say the short print version, which is bringing more money. But to me, this is already bringing a little bit over its cover price, and I think it's a good long-term hold, as this book could take off and is part of a good history as well. Obviously, the short print version, which is this one right here, is bringing higher value, but I just feel like it's a little, I don't know, I just feel it's a little ugly and a little minimalistic for me, but everyone can make their own choice. But I chose the regular cover 1B, but you might like the short print version, so to each their own for sure. At number 2 is Marvel Inferno number 2, the 1 in 50 variant from David Aja, and this is already bringing $25 to $50 on eBay. I got my version early. I didn't pre-order it, but I did get my version a little bit under 25, so I got it a little early, so that's great. I think it's a great cover. I love the angularity of it. I love the coloring. I love a lot of the negative space on this book. And there's also, Inferno has really, as a series, offered a lot of great covers. And so issue number 2 is no difference. There's a killer Joe Jusko Emma Frost cover, which I know a lot of people are going to be getting. And then there's also a really nice Emma Frost Peach Momoko cover as well. And all these are great choices. This book is generating lots of great covers. Moving on to number 1, it's no surprise that it's the Rose Bash 1 in 25 Wonder Woman Black and Gold number 5. Sales are already over $100 on eBay. This book is hot, hard to find, kind of selling like hotcakes. And the thing I like of this book a lot is the coloring on this book is amazing. B, it's a very cool take on Wonder Woman. And for Rose Bash cover lovers, it's a different type of cover and a different color palette that you would normally not see on a Bash cover. And I think if you want to see Wonder Woman more like what you typically see from Rose Bash, you can see this the 100-page special. There is a Bash variant out there that uses the color palette that you're more familiar with in a style more familiar with hers. That's why I love both books, because you can get best of both worlds. A really cool cover that obviously is making a lot of people take notice, and you've got her classic style of the same character in the 100-page special. So both books worth picking up. Now on to my early pick of the week for next week. DC Comics Gotham City Villains Anniversary Giant number 1. This is the Poison Ivy cover by Margaret Savage. It is a cardstock variant, so it's not going to be a rare variant, but it's a really beautiful book. Right off the gate, this book really caught my notice. I've already pre-ordered it, and it's got a penguin story written by Danny DeVito in the book, so I think it's going to be a fun read too. So it's not going to just be one of these books that has lots of cool covers. Now there's lots of cool covers coming out in this Gotham City Villains Anniversary Giant number 1. So there's a lot of options to choose from, but this one really caught my attention. Now, one thing I am going to be doing in the future is I am getting these books in. One of the things I talk about with this series is these are the books I'm actually purchasing, and so as I get them in, I'm going to have a checklist as I kind of knock them off the list. My goal is to get every one of these books on this list, and so hopefully I can do it. And I'll keep you guys updated as it goes along, and we'll see how I do. So that's the picks of the week, and that will actually end the video because I did my my mail day earlier than I normally do. But I want you guys to know I'm a little late this week because of Halloween, but I'll be back at you on Sundays starting next week. And have a great week, and I'll see you next time.